Today, I'm here for Latin Business Today and the Sports Business Institute with Lyle Adams. Lyle is the CEO, founder of Spry Payments, and very interesting subject matter, a very hot subject matter in the NIL, name, image, likeness area. Lyle, welcome to Latin Business Today and SBI.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. I look forward to today's conversation.
I do too, yeah. So let's cut right to the chase. So, we've obviously had conversations before, and I'm very impressed with you and your organization. But let's just, for the novice, if somebody's tuning in saying, what the heck is NIL? What does that mean? Why don't you give us the 101 version on that?
Until this year, until July 1st, collegiate athletes were not able to monetize on their name, image, and likeness, so their NIL. So in short, a college athlete could not have done a private lesson in the summertime. They could have not partnered with a local business to endorse a product. Anything that they would have earned compensation from their likeness while they were a collegiate athlete was prohibited based on NCAA guidelines. But on July 1st, so 2 weeks ago, student athletes had the opportunity now to make income or generate compensation from their NIL. And you see now some student athletes sign endorsement deals with sweet tea companies, some partner with local restaurants, some partner with prominent brands right now. So it's a very exciting time to be a student athlete.
Yeah, I would say, and since July 1st, now we're at July 14th, so 14 days in, has it broken the way you thought? Is it hotter? Is it slower? What do you think?
It's as expected right now, in that universities right now, as well as athletic departments, are finalizing their NIL policies. Because unfortunately, there was not national legislation in place by July 1st. So institutions, conferences, athletic departments all had to craft their own messages or policies to make sure their student athletes would remain eligible and at the same time protected the university. So there has been some deals, but I anticipate NIL traction to continue to pick up steam, especially now with fall sports nearing to return to college campuses and preseason started. So as more athletes now return to campuses and seeing what their colleagues and teammates and peers are now doing in the NIL space, I foresee business and opportunities slowly, steadily increasing, but there's definitely been traction and momentum so far.
Yes, and obviously we had the Supreme Court ruling, for those who don't know, 9-0, which is almost, I don't want to say a death knell, but I do think we're going to be seeing, and I've been saying this for almost 25 years, a different NCAA animal going forward. What are your thoughts on that, Lyle?
I think your notion is correct. The Alston case ruling was surprising in the majority of how the Supreme Court justice ruled on the decision. That now led to the NCAA, I believe, passing less restrictive NIL guidelines or advice to their member institutions, which now put the onus on the athletic departments to craft these policies, which many are now slowly starting to release. Like July 1st was a very interesting timing in general. If you look at what happened on the calendar, that was a Thursday before a long weekend. And in collegiate athletics, many take the week of the 4th off because once they return, it becomes kind of busy on campus leading up to the fall sports. So now athletic departments are getting back into the full swing of things. So Alston did, I would say, shake the foundation of collegiate athletics in the ruling, but I think the ruling will hopefully spur the industry forward.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lyle, and I think we're also seeing, I think we're going to be seeing a different kind of guard, if you will, because we're seeing a lot of older, like athletic director type people getting out. We're seeing Mike Krzyzewski is going to retire, and I'm not saying they're the reason why things weren't working. I'm just saying I think we're talking about a younger person coming in to manage an athletic department or to work in, because look, I worked in college athletics and I'm glad I did it when I was younger, right? Because it's a lot of time, a lot of hours, a lot of weekends, a lot of holidays. I love the fact that I did that, but I don't think I would want to do it now. And I think what we're seeing is also people, not only with the NIL, you have the, the transfer portal, which is, I mean, just, you want to talk about the Wild West. So I think we have seen a lot of tenured long-term ADs stepping down, retiring, or whatever you want to call it. And now we're seeing kind of like the younger influx of people coming into the athletic departments.
No, I think you're spot on. I think we're at an interesting crossroads of collegiate athletics. Like the NIL era comes at an interesting time. It's like this is after the first pandemic in over 150 years, I believe, right? So the pandemic had negative consequences on a lot of budgets, right? That stemmed back from not only missing fall sports for many institutions,
Yep.
but at the same time, it hurt from the previous spring by canceling the NCAA tournament, which has financial windfall for all member institutions, regardless of the division. So that now, coupled with NIL and all the shifts that are going on in higher learning or academia in general, has made many to I think realize, hey, am I 100% in it? Like obviously it's Coach Krzyzewski is an icon in college basketball, but like my little sister went to do, she said it best. She's like, Lyle, he was going to have to retire eventually.
Yeah.
I love Coach K, but Coach K couldn't coach into his 80s. It wasn't good for Coach K, and it wasn't good for Coach K's wife, she said. So, obviously we're going to see the change in guards. The Roy Williams, Coach K, some legendary coaches will sadly retire in the next 3-5 years. But on the administrative side, these are challenges that you're right. These are really interesting problems to solve. And if you're not 100% in them, maybe it might be the best to find someone who has a different way of thinking or a different approach that can lead the institution or the industry forward. So I can see now why NIL COVID has been the catalyst for so many personnel changes.
Yeah, and I think it's a philosophical thing too. Let's be honest. I mean, I think when you talk to the old guard, for lack of a better word, again, you're talking about people who are kind of like, this is the way it is. This is the way college athletics works. This is amateurism, right? And this is how we recruit, and that. Not that cheating hasn't gone on. We all know cheating has gone on in all forms of athletics. But at the end of the day, there was, this oversight, this NCAA mandate. This is, you're an amateur, you don't make money, you don't, so it's a different world, and it's changing, and it's, listen, it's 2021, so things just don't stay the same. Tell us about you. You were a Division I athlete. So you come at this from a couple different perspectives. As somebody who is a business person, you have your business, you have your education. Let's talk about you for a second. Where you're from, and give us your background and stuff like that.
I grew up in Orlando, Florida. My parents are Jamaican. West Indian family, very big on the education. So my parents always stressed education for me. Unfortunately, my club soccer team broke up going into my junior year. And for those who don't know, junior year is the biggest year for college recruiting. So with my club soccer team dissolving, I somewhat fell through the cracks of the recruiting cycle. I was recruited by a few programs, but not the ones I wanted to pursue or chase. So I ultimately decided on applying to the schools I wanted to go play soccer at. I was fortunate enough to get into Wake Forest academically. And the coach at the time, Coach Jay Vinovich, and now the head coach, Bobby Muse, gave me an opportunity to walk onto the soccer team, which was wonderful because not many people did that. And I earned a spot on the team and became a 4-year starter. So college was a wonderful experience. We won a national championship my junior year, made 3 Final Fours. Due to our success on the field, I was fortunate enough now to have a professional soccer career for 2 seasons. Unfortunately, the cup of coffee got cold, and I had to find a more traditional job. And at that point, I started working in the tech industry. So I spent some time working at Living Social, based out of DC, which was Groupon's main competitor in the daily deal space. And that kind of taught me scratch the surface of my interest in tech. I love the fast pace. I love the changing environment. I love how no 2 days were the same, and you had to always think about innovative solutions to solve problems. And at the same time, there was no case study for these problems because they were new problems to solve. So you could now take my economics passion to say, hey, economics is all theoretical, and the startup world now allowed you to apply some of these theoretical concepts and understandings that I learned in school.
Yeah.
In the summer of 2012, I heard from a friend, there was this company called Uber Technologies or Uber Cab that was hiring in DC. And I put my name in the hat and fortunately enough, got lucky again. They hired me. I was employee number 3 in DC, less than 100 in the company at the time. I like to say before Uber was cool, it was black car only. It was a really wonderful experience. I spent the next 6 years of my career at Uber doing data science, product, data engineering, special projects, operations, you name it, I did it for a period of time. I was somewhat of a Swiss Army knife. And it was a really wonderful experience, not only to see a company go from an idea to adoption to becoming a household staple or appearing in movies and rap songs. There's a funny story I'll tell you real quick. So in the summer in 2012, my 2 roommates at the time were very confused in what I was doing. And I could not pay them to take a ride. I was giving them gift cards, wouldn't take a ride. They're like, Lyle, I'm gonna take a cab, I'm gonna take a subway. I don't really know about this. Yet 6 months later, my roommates now were like Uber's biggest advocates in DC. So things changed super quickly. It was a really wonderful experience. After spending some time, I left Uber in 2018, did some traveling, tried to figure out what was next. I worked at a small startup for a bit of time, a really good experience, but it wasn't one for me. And I decided to pursue graduate school because I really wanted to get back into sports. So I enrolled at the Columbia University where I pursued my sports management master's in the fall of 2019. It was wonderful. Scott Rosner, LJ Holmgren, Tom Cerny, wonderful faculty there. I met some really cool people, but unfortunately, halfway through my second semester, COVID happened. We went virtual, and obviously COVID was, had negative implications on so many, and so many lives were lost, which was super unfortunate. On a personal level, like I was fortunate enough to be healthy, but being confined in New York for 4 months gave me a lot of time to think. And through that isolation period, Spry was born and hatched. So going into Spry now, being a former athlete, I always thought that all athletes would have the opportunity to earn some form of compensation from their name, image, and likeness, or their NIL. Would every athlete take part of that opportunity? I don't know the answer to that. But looking at my soccer team at Wake, there was 32 guys on that team, and every one of us could have done private lessons in our hometown or on a Sunday. Maybe some of us now, partner with the local restaurant in our hometown that we used to eat at, or the local soccer club that we used to play for. So when I really understood this, I said, hey, the volume of opportunity could inundate an athletic department. Because what many don't know is you have a lot of senior staff, but compliance is typically 2 or 3 people at the D1 level, unless you're a very large institution, whereas D2 and D3 have 1 person dedicated to compliance, but even their dedication might be split for other roles in the athletic department. They could be a coach doing compliance. They could be a senior administrator also doing compliance. So for me, NIL presented an opportunity that would definitely benefit athletes, but could put the institution in an operational crunch, because there were always going to be certain opportunities that student athletes couldn't pursue. Like looking at the professional ranks, LeBron or Mike Trout don't work with certain brands for obvious reasons. And now looking at the university level, I could say my alma maters, Wake and Columbia, would restrict certain types of opportunities. Not that they don't want the student athlete to earn money, but like, I don't think they want us working with steroids or performance enhancing companies, because it somewhat undermines the collegiate athletic model or what the university stands for on their moral and ethics side. So how is now the university going to prevent and assess those? And that was a general foundation of Spry in general. It's like, how do you protect this university, protect the athlete, but at the same time, can you use technology to empower and educate the athlete, which was my big goal, because you only know what you know, Dave.
Right.
Like, I didn't understand taxes, LLCs, contracts, legal stuff when I was 19 years old.
Right.
And now it's a great opportunity for these student athletes and young men and women to make money for themselves. But with now making money, there comes challenges and consequences that you have to understand as a small business owner. So how do you educate these individuals at scale?
Yeah. listen, I think it's brilliant. Obviously, I think there's a real need for what you're doing. Obviously, going forward, we're just starting scratching the surface, not even. But at the end of the day, it's very important work, and I think you have a great business model. So we are Latin business today, so we obviously our audience is wider. But let's talk about that community for a second, how it might kind of how this might kind of affect them, educating and supporting entrepreneurs maybe in the Latin community. Why don't we start with that?
It's for me personally, being an African American male, I'm so excited about NIL because NIL can move a lot of industries or populations, families forward. Like maybe if I was in college, maybe I would have made a little bit of money in college. Like yes, it wasn't life changing money, but making a couple $1,000s, I can start a savings account. I can invest that. Maybe I can send some money home to my family. So there's so many positive things now that NIL can provide for a lot of first generation college students. Because I don't remember the number offhand. NCAA scholarships, athletic aid, I think 30-40% are first time or first generation college graduates as a result of these opportunities. And that overlays predominantly in, underrepresented communities, so African American, Hispanic, Native American communities that use athletics as an opportunity or a launch pad to change their personal situations or change their environment. So for me, how do you now empower these young women and young men with the tools to successfully navigate this, to protect themselves so they don't sign a contract that takes too much money, or they don't do an endorsement deal that hurts them long term? Those are the things I'm really excited about. And I think finally, NIL creates a really interesting opportunity to somewhat teach 18-year-olds how to be business owners before they really have to be business owners.
Mm.
Like if you think about, the metrics, Dave, I think that 99% of student athletes go pro in something else.
Mm.
Like when I started my first job at 23, yes, I was playing soccer, but I didn't understand taxes. I could do like budgeting, but it wasn't really great. I didn't understand credit as well as I did. Like I didn't understand insurance. Whereas now, if you have your small business via your NIL business in college, you learn all these skills when you're in college in this environment. So do I foresee in 2-3 years a lot of college athletes coming out more polished into the job market? Absolutely. And for me, that's so exciting now because like instead of taking 3 years to figure it out, they hit the ground running. They already know how to network. They already know how to build a resume. They already know how to market and profile themselves, which I think is a wonderful opportunity and only will set those athletes on a path to success that I wish I was on when I was 22, 23.
Mm-hmm. I think it's perfectly stated, Lyle, what you said, and I think it's important to note. And I've always felt like there should be like a one-on-one course at the high school level for kids to understand, how to open a checking account, how to, all the things, the basic things maybe that aren't taught because they're not taught. But at the end of the day, your company is an educational component. It's an add-on, and it's also, and so because we also know this, we know that whether you're a Division III athlete or Division I athlete at the highest level, you are putting a lot of time and effort into your sport, right? I mean, you're a Division III athlete at, say, Manhattanville, where I work, and you're expected to work out year round, to participate year round. So it's not just a Division I school. So you're offering something, obviously to help them understand and grow as people, and it's part of the education process.
You're absolutely right, Dave, and I think it was well said. I don't think NIL just affects D1 institutions.
Mm.
I think NIL affects all athletes at all divisions. Like I don't know the actual breakdown of the NFL, players by division. Like yes, there's a disproportionate number of D1 athletes or play at Power 5 schools in the NFL. But the best receiver of all time, Jerry Rice, did not go to a big school.
Right.
Jerry Rice went to a small school, right? So there's stories across the board in the NFL if you truly look at now. that there's success stories that are across all divisions of the NFL. Or Terrell Davis, the Denver Broncos, didn't really go to a prominent school, as we would know now as a football powerhouse, but he's a Hall of Fame running back. And you can probably make the list and go on of these running backs or NFL players that achieve stardom post-graduation, whether they went to HBCUs or D2 institutions.
Yep.
So for me, looking at the construct of, yes, D1 sports are always on TV. That doesn't necessarily hurt a D2 and D3 athlete. And my belief on that is many D2 and D3 athletes are within a closer proximity to their hometowns or home communities, so that you could make the argument that their brand value is actually higher. Yeah. Looking at myself, I grew up in Winter Park, Florida. Rollins College recruited me for those who don't know, Rollins College is a very, good D2 soccer institution based out of Winter Park, Florida. If I had gone to Rollins to play soccer, my earning potential was infinitely higher than it would have been in Winston-Salem, because everyone knew who I was in Winter Park, Florida. Like, I won Player of the Year. I went to local high school there. So maybe my camps and clinics now have a bit more people than they would have now in Winston-Salem. So thinking now that the D2 or D3 athlete won't benefit, I think is naive for some, but I think the earning potential is great across the board. And finally, many athletes in the D2, 3 level, at least the ones I know, use their athletic abilities to earn a college degree, so they knew their careers had a shelf life. So they were the ones always looking for jobs or internships and opportunities. So maybe they now actually lean in now more to their NIL while they're in school, since they know, or they don't really have aspirations to become a professional athlete. So maybe this is not my time to shine. Here are my 3.5 years that I can really make a mark for myself and use it as a launch pad to become what I want to be later on in life.
Yeah. And I have to admit, I was one of those naive people who, when this was first, announced, while way back, this is coming down the road, thinking to myself, well, who's this going to affect? The Heisman Trophy winner, maybe the guy who's the national champion basketball, player. But you're right. You're 100% right. It is every athlete at every level who can take advantage of this, and it really is. It's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Has nothing to do with, tainting their amateurism. This is an opportunity. So I don't want to keep it too long. I know you're a busy guy, but I do thank you for your time. And if there's anything I missed, why don't you tell me now, and we can, go from there. But I do want to, and while you're doing that, why don't you tell people how they can find out more about Spry or connect to you if there's somebody watching who needs to do that.
No, thank you once again for having me, Dave. It's been a wonderful conversation. I hope we can do this again in 6 months. Yep. Right? And I will look drastically different in 6 months from today, and drastically different from 1 year, because the space will evolve or continue to evolve as we learn more and the athletes become more comfortable with this. In terms of reaching me, feel free, everyone, to reach out to me at, you can check Spry's website. If you email info at, all those emails go to my inbox. So I'll gladly get back to everyone. Or you can, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Lyle Adams, Spry, and I should pop up on LinkedIn. In terms of closing parts, I think, or fleeting thoughts, you might say, I would say NIL is unknown right now, truly. And I think that's what makes it scary for so many. But as we learn more and educate everyone, whether it's coaches, administration, boosters, athletes, faculty, staff, as you mentioned, NIL will uplift everyone. They say, rising tides lifts all boats. And I think the same now for NIL will happen across the board. So as schools now realize, hey, this is great, you can now lump in some of your faculty or staff, or even maybe your department. That becomes a really competitive advantage for institutions or student athletes, right? So everyone's saying, hey, will the big schools rise to the top? I would say yes and maybe no. If you have a really good marketing professor and that they're teaching NIL at a given school about how to sports market, maybe I now choose that institution because I want that educational package instead of being saturated in Los Angeles where there's Hollywood, there's 8 sports teams. I can't really make a name for myself in LA, whereas I might be able to make a name for myself if I'm not saturated in a big market. So I think NIL is really exciting, and I'm happy for so many. But at the same time, I implore those to say, hey, let's educate our student athletes. Let's still remain educators at heart, right? Like everyone who works in higher academia or higher learning is an educator. They want to like empower the students with information that sets them on a better path when they arrive. And I think if that is our ultimate goal with NIL, everyone will see the benefits.
Yeah. Well, again, I think it's wonderful. I thank you for your time, and I just want to say, if you could buy stock in individuals, I would buy stock in you. We've never met face to face, and I hope to do that someday soon. But at the end of the day, I believe in what you're doing. I believe in you. I believe you're sincere and real, and I'm your biggest fan, rooting for you to succeed. So, and I hope that maybe someday, some way we can do that together. But at the end of the day, if there's anything you need from us, we're here to help you as well.
Thank you so much for the kind words, Dave. I will, after we wrap this up, I would love to schedule a lunch with you. I am now officially vaccinated, so I would love to meet you for lunch someday so we can actually meet in person. But thank you so much for your time today. It's been a wonderful honor.